Hello again. In the previous video, I mentioned about the importance of threat analysis and risk assessment, and in this video, I am going to briefly touch upon what is meant by this threat analysis and risk assessment and the very important role it plays in cyber security or automotive cyber security. The threat analysis and risk assessment is a core cyber security process defined in ISO 21434 clause 7. This all the various clauses I have already mentioned in the table in a previous slide. Now it is the method which systematically identifies, evaluates and mitigates cyber security risks in automotive systems. Now below is a detailed breakdown of the TARA methodology, including steps, techniques and examples. So we are going to clearly see step by step methodology how this threat analysis and risk assessment is implemented. The most important purpose of TARA is TARA helps automotive engineers identify the potential threats, example by hacking, data breaches and ECU manipulation. All these things are important. Okay, actually recently I came across one movie where the hero, he is able to hack into the Rolls Royce of the villain and he brings the Rolls Royce out of the villain's fort by using a mobile. The movie's name is in Telugu, its name is Kanulu Kanulu Dochayante. So in case if you have time, you please see that movie. It's not exactly a masterpiece, but in the climax you will see how easy, or if at all cyber security is not properly addressed, how easy it is to hack into a luxury car and steal the car. Now when it comes to assess risk based on attack feasibility and impact severity, now defining security controls is the next important purpose of TARA. Okay, example encryption, secure boot, intrusion detection, all these are the various security controls. Next comes the prioritize mitigation efforts. Now prioritize the mitigation efforts to meet safety and compliance requirements. This is also a purpose of TARA. So there are a lot of compliance requirements. You need to be clearly able to prioritize which is the number one, which is number two. You need to be able to prioritize. Next comes the TARA workflow. The TARA process allows a structured approach. It clearly, the first step one is asset identification, identifying the what. Okay, identify critical cyber security relevant assets in vehicle. For example, hardware. When it comes to hardware, ECUs, sensors, infotainment systems, these are all the various hardware areas where threats are prevalent. Next comes the various software, firmware, OTA update mechanisms, communication stacks. These are all the various areas of vulnerability. Next comes data like GPS coordinates, biometric data, V2X messages and interfaces like CAN buses, Ethernet, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, USB. Example, asset telematics control unit and interfaces, cellular, Bluetooth, OTA updates. Now what is the step 2? The step 2 is threat scenario identification. Previous step is identifying the various assets and now we are going to see the threat scenario identification. Again coming to the question is what? Define how an attacker could exploit the vulnerabilities. Okay, and how do we do that? First by brainstorming with cyber security experts. Next with the help of attack trees. This is more like fault tree analysis. I'm sure everybody knows what is meant by fault tree analysis. Just like fault tree analysis, this attack trees is a logical breakdown of the attack paths, and also the STRIDE model, Microsoft Threat Classification, which includes spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of services and elevation of privilege. Now coming to threat scenarios of the TCU, what is meant by TCU? It is also, for example, transmission control unit. Now what are the various threat scenarios? First is spoofing, fake OTA update leading to malware injection. So under the pretext of OTA, what is meant by OTA? Over the air, and there is a separate module where I am discussing the OTA in a very elaborate manner. Next comes tampering, unauthorized modification of the TCU firmware, and DOS attack which floods the TCU with requests to crash it. Okay, so these are all the various threat scenarios for TCU. Now coming to the next measurement of the severity scale, ISO 21434 uses severity scale, for example 1 to 5. Now here you measure the severity of a given threat. For example, a threat like unauthorized TCU firmware, it can have impact level of 4 because it is very severe. If transmission fails, then the entire purpose of the vehicle is breaking down. Okay, so next step, important step is impact assessment or understanding the severity of a successful attack. Now what are the various criteria? First criteria is safety impact, for example brake system failure. Next is financial impact, example recall cost. What is the privacy impact, for example stolen driver data. And last but not the least, it is the operational impact, example vehicle mobilization. These are all the various criteria in which, or criteria through which you measure the impact or the severity of the impact. For example, when it comes to level 5, it is catastrophic, life threatening. Suddenly when you are driving on the road, if transmission fails, that may lead to a fatal accident. When it comes to level 4, severe, it may lead to major safety risk. Again, if something like brake fails or electronic stability program fails, there is a good chance that vehicle may steer out of control or veer out of control, that may lead to severe accident. Now coming to 3, moderate functional disruption. Okay, this for example a limp mode or something fails, then the vehicle may very much stutter during the starting or the movement of the vehicle. Next comes the 2 and 1, where 2 stands for minor, which has limited effect, and 1 is negligible, which is no safety impact. So naturally you understand 5 is the most severe impact. So if at all you judge that a such and such a threat can have a severe impact, then it is considered catastrophic and it is given a level 5 rating. Now coming to attack feasibility assessment. Okay, now what is this attack feasibility assessment? You estimate how easily an attacker can exploit the vulnerability. Okay, vulnerability is one thing and exploiting the vulnerability is another thing. So what are the various factors considered in exploiting the vulnerability? First is attack complexity, which includes skills, resources needed. Okay, how difficult is it to accomplish the attack? Next is attack vector, remote versus physical access. Is it something where the hacker or the criminal is attacking your vehicle from a remote place, or is he attacking your vehicle directly with the help of some USB or some pen drive? Now existing security controls, example encryption, authentication. Now again when it comes to feasibility scale, there is skill level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we will see one after the other. Level 5 is very high, where script kiddie attack happens. Next is high, known exploits available. So here you can guess the exploits. You can see how in various way it can be exploited. The attack can be exploited. And now coming to 3, it is medium, where medium means it requires high level of expertise. And when it comes to feasibility 2, it is feasibility is very low, or it is very difficult to execute. So it is very difficult to attack here. And 1 means very low, theoretically it is just theoretically only. So in this, as you go from 5 to 1, attack becomes more and more difficult or more and more impossible. For example, spoofing OTA updates, feasibility level 1. So feasibility level 4. So it is highly feasible that you inject a malware or a spoofing update with the help of OTA. It is very feasible. That is why it is given a level of 4. Okay, so everybody understand, I hope, the how attack feasibility is assessed. All right, next go to the next step. Next comes the risk determination. Now what is the combined impact of the what is the combination of the impact and feasibility to calculate the risk level? Now what is the formula? All right, copy, download and risk level is equal to impact level into feasibility level. Now this is a very common impact level or common risk level definition. Risk matrix example. Now when it comes to threat, TCU firmware tampering is impact 4 and feasibility 4 where risk is very high. So the risk is very high because impact is very high and it is highly feasible. Okay, so risk is quite high. Now we will see how in what bandwidths the risks are judged or risks are appropriated. When it comes to risk value of 20 to 25, it is unacceptable. And when it comes to risk value of 10 to 16, it is high and it must be immediately be mitigated. And when it comes to risk 5 to 9, it can be considered to mitigation, but you don't need to address it immediately, or maybe you can address it a bit later. Okay, that's the meaning of it. And when it comes to 1 to 4, the mitigation level is negligible, you can just ignore it. All right, now these are the various risk determination gauges. Now when it comes to step 6, now how do you decide how to handle the risks? There are various ways in which risk can be handled. First is to avoid, where you totally remove the feature itself, or you totally remove the what you call risk of the risk itself. That is called avoiding. Next is reduce. You implement security controls. Okay. Next comes the transfer, insurance, third party responsibility. You transfer the risk to some third party like insurance companies, and next you accept the risk if the residual risk is low. In the previous slide I showed you, if the risk is falling under the 1 to 4 scale, then you can accept the risk or you can totally neglect the risk. Now coming to example mitigations for the TCU. Secure boot. You have to secure the boot which prevents unauthorized firmware execution. Next comes the code signing, ensures only trusted updates. Last but not the least, intrusion detection system IDS, it constantly monitors CAN bus anomalies because CAN root is highly vulnerable. So these are all the various ways in which you mitigate for TCU. All right. Now what are the various types of TARA outputs and documentation? ISO 21434 requires documenting TARA results for compliance and including, because if at all your company is a ASPICE company, documentation is very important. So how do you document? First is the list of assets and threats. With the help of so you clearly outline the various list of threats and assets. Next is risk assessment. Next is risk assessment matrix. Next is security controls applied, and last but not the least, it is the residual risk evaluation. This documentation is crucial for regulatory audits such as UNR 155 and supplier agreements, and in these supplier agreements ASPICE comes into picture. Okay, so this documentation is of extreme importance when it comes to ASPICE and auditing. So what are the various challenges in TARA? What are the TARA? When it comes to challenges, the most important challenge is subjectivity, because when it comes to impact and feasibility, it may vary between experts. One expert may perceive a certain impact as low, other expert may perceive it as high. So there is some kind of subjectivity and difference of opinions between the level of impact and feasibility. Now this is the most important challenge. Now coming to evolving threats, when it comes to evolving threats, new attack methods require new updates. For example, just like in every field, even AI is entering the threat assessment and risk assessment. Okay, and next is supply chain risks. So in the entire tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers must align on TARA. This threat assessment and risk analysis, it is perfectly, it should be aligned by all the tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. Now coming to the conclusion, TARA is a systematic repeatable methodology for assessing automotive security risks. By following ISO 21434 structured approach, automakers can identify critical threats early, and it can also prioritize high risk vulnerabilities. Alright, now coming to the last, implementation, effective security controls and meeting the regulatory requirements. So this is all based on this structured approach, all these can be implemented, identified and assessed. Okay, thank you.